children, as we have seen in the last class about a visit to Cambridge, here Firdaus Kanga and the Stephen Hawking both were disabled persons, and it is the lesson about the conversation between them in the Cambridge. Here first, this Firdaus Kanga want to meet the Stephen Hawking, so he goes to near a booth and calls him by pulling the wire, because he was a disabled man as he was in a wheelchair. And he called him, and the Stephen Hawking's assistant picked up a call, and he says that he speaks with the Firdaus Kanga, and he says that Firdaus Kanga he want to meet and he want to write a novel. So he want to meet the Stephen Hawking for at least for 10 minutes or 30 minutes. Then he says that tomorrow, the next day, 3:32. Then soon after this, Firdaus Kanga felt very tired because he was disabled man. So he thought, only by giving courage or by encouraging them we can't get. It should be from self. Self-confidence is very important. What will be happen next? We can see in this class. Now let's move to the sixth. A lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. I said, I know that's not true myself. Are you often laughing inside? About 3 minutes later, he responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. And do you find it anything when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? The answer flashed, yes. Then he smiled his one-way smile, and I knew, without being sentimental or silly, that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. See, the author expresses how most people think that people with different abilities are constantly sad and miserable. But as for he is talking about himself, it is not true. He asked Hawking if it was true for him, or was he laughing on the inside. It took Hawking almost 3 minutes to respond. He find it entertaining when people are only kind of him because of his different abilities. The author further asked him if he feels irritated when people like him come and keep him away from his work, to which he answered a firm yes. After that, Stephen smiled his one-way smile, not giving into emotions, but the author knew for sure that he was looking at one of the most beautiful and wonderful men in the world. Now, seventh. The answer flashed, yes. Then he smiled his one-way smile, and I knew, without being sentimental or silly, that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. The first glimpse of him is shocking, because he is like a still photograph, as if all those pictures of him in magazines and newspapers have turned three-dimensional. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes, which can speak still, and they are saying something huge and urgent. It is hard to tell what, but you are shaken because you have seen something you never thought could be seen. Now explanation, children. The author mentions how the first glance of Hawking strikes you because he is motionless, just as a photograph. It seems that all his photos in magazines and newspapers have become three-dimensional, but still, as you notice him further, his head is turned sideways limply, the upper part of the body is shrunk inside his dull blue shirt and legs weak. This eyes appear as if they can speak. They are still yet trying to speak something of great significance and urgency. Although what they are saying is hard to decode. Having looked off him, shake up completely because your eyes have something completely unexpected. Now let's move to the 8th. Before you, like a lantern whose walls are worn so thin you glimpse. Only the light inside is the incandescence of a man. The body almost irrelevant, exists only like a case made of shadows, so that I, no believer in eternal souls, know that this is what each of us is, everything else and accessory. Now explanation, children. You see him, it appears as if he is like a lamp whose walls are so worn out that you only see the light inside. Yes, before you is the inner glow of a man. It makes you feel that the body is irrelevant and exists only like a case made of shadows. It even makes the author a non-believer in eternal souls. Realizes that a man is no more than that. Everything else is just not essential. Now, 9th. What do you think is the best thing about being disabled? I had asked him earlier. I do not think there is anything good about being disabled. I said, you do discover how much kindness there is in the world. Yes, he said. It was a disadvantage of his voice synthesizer that it could convey no inflation, no shades or tone. And I could not tell how enthusiastically he agreed with him. Now explanation. The author asked Stephen what according to him the best thing about being differently able. To which Hawking replied that he did not find anything good about it. The author then expressed that he thinks it makes you discover that there is much loneliness in the world. Stephen agreed, but due to his voice synthesizer, the author could not receive the excitement behind his answer, as there is disadvantage that comes with it, that it conveys no inflation, shade or in the tone. Now 10th paragraph. Every time I shifted in my chair or turned my wrist to watch the time, I wanted to make every one of our 30 minutes count. I felt a huge relief and exhilaration in the possibilities of my body. How little it mattered then that I would never walk or even stand. Now explanation, children. The author mentions that each time he adjusted himself in his chair or had a look at his wristwatch to track the time, he wanted to make sure that no single minute of the meeting went wasted. He adds that he was relieved and happy about the limited possibilities his body had to offer. In that moment, it almost did not matter to the author that he would never be able to walk or even stand, for that matter. Now let's move to the 11th. I told him how he had been an inspiration beyond Klitsch for me and surely for others. Did that thought help him? No, he said, and I thought how foolish I was to ask. When your body is the claustrophobic room and the walls are growing narrower day by day, it does not do much good to know that there is people outside smiling with admiration to see you breathing still. Now explanation. The author said Stephen, if he would like to give a piece of advice to others differently abled people, which would help him, which would make their life a little easier for them. Stephen said that they should focus on their strengths and what they are good at. According to Stephen, things are like Olympics for the differently abled are a waste of time. The author got a glimpse that what Stephen meant because he had spent years learning to play a Spanish guitar, which was larger than his own size, and how he unstringed it one night very happily. Now let's move to the next. Is there any advice you can give disabled people, something that might help be life better? They should concentrate on what they are good at. I think they are disabled Olympics are the waste of time. I know. What do you mean? I remembered the years I had spent trying to play Spanish guitar considerably larger than I was, and how gleefully I had unstringed it one night. The half hour was up. I think I have annoyed you through, I said, grinning. Thank you for. Now explanation. Sorry. Stay, I waited. Have some tea. I can show you the garden. The garden was as big as a park, but Stephen Hawking covered every inch, rumbling along in his monster wheelchair, while I dogged to keep out of the way. We could not talk very much. The sun made him silent, the letters on his screen disappearing in the glare. Now explanation, children. The author confessed to him how Stephen had inspired his beyond limits, and he was sure that he must have inspired a lot others. He asked if this fact made it any better for Stephen. Stephen said that it did not. On hearing this answer, the author felt foolish for even asking such a question. This is because Stephen Hawking feels when your own body is like a very small and sophisticated room whose walls are getting closer day by day, the fact that people out there are happy that you are alive does not make much difference for the others. The 30 minutes came to an end, and the author smiled and he said, I think I have annoyed you enough, and continued to thank for him this time. But he interpreted, and Stephen was instead asked him to stay. He waited for Stephen to say something next, and he offered the author some tea and a chance to show his garden, even though the garden was as big as a park. Stephen showed him every inch and corner of his garden on his wheelchair. The author tried not to come in his way. They could not conjure a lot during that time, as the letters on his screen disappeared in the glare. It felt as if the sun made him silent. Now the last part. An hour later, we were ready to leave. I did not know what to do. I could not kiss him or cry. I touched his shoulder and wheeled out into the summer evening. I looked back and I knew he was waving, though he was not. Watching him, an embodiment of my bravest self, the one I was moving towards, and the one I had believed in for so many years alone. I knew that my journey was over for now. Now explanation, children. An hour passed and it was time to leave. The author did not know what to do as he left, as he could not kiss him or cry either. Thus he touched his shoulder and went out into the summer evening in his wheelchair. The author knew Stephen was waving as he looked back. The author expresses how glancing at Stephen was like looking at his bravest self, the one he was moving towards, and one he had believed in for so many years. He was well aware that his journey was over for now in England. Now let's move to the theme of this lesson. The whole A Visit to Cambridge surrounds the concept of living a better life. The author speaks how one must keep their focus on the good and their talent irrespective of their disabilities that one have. To live a better life, one should concentrate on what they can do it and they have the dream on it and lead a better life, no matter if they are disabled. Thank you.